Hi guys, Ronnie here and welcome to the workshop. In today's video, upon request, I'm going to discuss different types of Speedplay pedals, how do they work and what are the differences. So let's just start with the most basic one, and that is what I use most of the time. This is the standard Zero pedal, the Zero titanium. It has the signature Speedplay lollipop design, and in this case also a titanium spindle. It's double-sided, so this is the base model of Speedplay, and I use this on my road bike for road racing. It's an Aero bike, so you might ask why don't I use the Aero version, which I'm going to cover a bit later on. So the reason for that is sometimes as race starts, you have breakaways right from the start. Sometimes they're dangerous, sometimes they're not. And in that case, you just want to clip in quite quickly. But you can also do that on the Aero version. But you know, when I first bought these pedals, I just really wanted to have a double-sided version for my road bike because I wasn't sure how they're going to work and etc. So I got this one just as a safe bet. But now, to be honest, if I reconsidered that, it was a good choice, but perhaps now I would go for the Aero version, or perhaps the Pavé version, which I'm going to cover as well. So I've already shown you how the cleats are installed and how they work. Essentially with Speedplay, all the engagement is done at the cleat, and it has a C-shaped steel spring. So no, you can't adjust how strong the clip-in force is, and that's for the reason because you don't need to, because coming from the shape of the spring, sideways release is extremely easy because you just basically do this. You don't have to open the spring. Clipping in is a bit harder at first when the cleat is not worn in and the pedal is brand new. So that's where you actually have to open the spring by tension and hook it into these little metal ridges. So basically all the contact is metal on metal, unlike on most pedals. And yeah, that's it. And this way you can it's basically impossible to accidentally release your cleat when sprinting. And you can't really do that unless you ride a whole lot on the cleat. I had one with 22,000 kilometers on it, and then it started to become a bit wobbly, and then I was able to actually push it out or pull it out in sprinting. So that's when you definitely need to change that, otherwise it lasts a pretty long time. So this is the standard Zero version. It's the lightest, I think 170 something for the pair. For the titanium version. And one distinction of the titanium version is that it has the shortest spindle length. So this is a 50 mil, and I have quite narrow hips, so I wanted the Q factor to be as small as possible. It's also good for aerodynamics and cornering clearance. So that's the main reason I'm going for the titanium spindle, not really the weight savings, because those are quite marginal. Of course, you can custom order a stainless version with 6 different spindle lengths, which is a unique thing in the pedal business. But then you have to wait quite a long time for it, and at the end it pretty much comes up almost as expensive as the titanium version. One other thing about the titanium version is there's a weight limit on them. So these have, I think, an 85 kilo weight limit, which, well, if you're concerned about the weight of pedals, then you're probably under that, so it's no real issue. One thing I don't like about these pedals is the standard 15 mil interface here. I would really prefer to have an 8 mil hex socket in here, and this part of the spindle to be well, just smooth, but yeah, it's just a minor issue really. If you take care of these They will last an awful long time. These have, well, I think around 25,000 kilometers at least on them. Not really sure, but that's the minimum. Okay, now for the Aero version, that's quite a bit different. So the Aero version comes with these cleats, but basically you can order any type of Speedplay pedal, I think from 2017 on, with this type of walkable cleat, which I totally recommend because it makes life a lot easier. The standard cleat, like here, this is an older packaging. This is a standard cleat, and it has this metal outer surface which is very slippery, and it's completely square, so quite hard to walk in, whereas this is probably the easiest road cleat system you can walk in. So that's a nice feature, and of course if you wear out this little outer part, then unlike other pedal systems you don't have to change the whole cleat, just this little rubber cover. It's also quite grippy, so you're not going to fall over at the cafe, and it's quite aero as well. So yeah, this is the Speedplay Zero Aero pedal, and if you look at it from the top, it's pretty much the same as the Zero, although this is a stainless version, so there's some weight difference in there, but if you look at the spindle length, that's the most obvious difference. So these are going on a customer's bike, a road bike for that matter. I use these on my time trial bike, again in the titanium version, to get that narrower Q factor. And yeah, the difference is basically in the underside, which is dimpled and smooth just to really integrate nicely into the cleat cover and the cleat design. So this is basically the most aero pedal you can get right now, and it's just as easy to clip in. The cleats are exactly the same. You can use this cleat for this pedal, or this cleat for this pedal. They're all interchangeable as long as you're talking the Speedplay Zero models. So this is the standard Zero, and this is the Zero Aero, which is definitely a good option for time trial bikes. Possibly triathlon as well, although transitions are going to be easier with the double-sided entry, I imagine. I'm not really sure, I've never done one. So that's a small disclaimer right there. And then finally, I just got these Speedplay Pavé pedals, again in the titanium version. And I got these because, well, originally I wanted my cross bike to be a gravel bike for the summer, but I've changed my mind a little bit, so I'm going to make some modifications to make it essentially an all-road bike, and I want to use it on roads that are too bad to be used or to be ridden on my standard road bike, the Madone, because there are many nice and hilly roads which I don't get to ride very often just because I'm afraid of wrecking the bike. But with this one, with these super wide tubeless zip rims, or MBs later on as they arrive, 30mm tires, it's going to be perfect for that. And I think it's a very good match with the Pave pedals. Now if you look at these, at first glance they look very different from the standard Zeros, but if you have a closer look, then actually they're exactly the same, apart from these side pieces here. So the plastic bits are essentially kind of removed. You only get this locking interface in the middle, and then you got this cross section that's basically parallel or in line with the spindle, and these are metal as well. So these might appear very light, but because of the metal part, they're actually heavier than the standard ones by roughly 15 to 20 grams. The cleats for these are the same and exactly the same in terms of engagement, spindle length, installation, everything. So the only difference is this pedal body, and it's designed this way to give it some off-road capability, because, well, the obvious downside of the Speedplay pedal or any road pedal is that if you step into a little mud or something, then you can't clip in anymore, because it just fills the cleat and you just can't press it onto the pedal. With this, however, it has these little channels that allow the dirt to escape, so you press through that, and it also has this all metal finish, so that should improve the durability in these worse conditions. And originally it was designed for the classics, where it was used quite successfully, but I'm going to use it for these all-road, gravel, bad road, cobble style of riding. So I think that's a perfect match. Previously I had XTR mountain bike pedals on there, which are great for cross, but for this summer use I prefer to have, they have a pretty wide Q factor as well, so this way my bikes will have the same Q factor, same pedaling feel and same power transfer and clip in style. So the only difference will be that these have a bit more clearance for mud. Okay, so these are possibly all the details about different Speedplay pedals, or the Zero line, I would say. Other notable mentions would be the Speedplay Scissor, which is a full-on off-road pedal system, but that got some mixed reviews, so I was a bit afraid to go for that for cyclocross, so I have standard Shimano XTR pedals instead for that. There are some other designs as well, for example the Ultralight Action, but that's not really a high performance cyclist pedal, that's for complete beginners, and it's super easy to clip in, but also doesn't have the safety and the hold necessary for example sprinting. On the completely different side of the spectrum, you have a special version of the Zeros called the Track Sprint Edition. Now these on the other hand have super strong engagement. I haven't really tried those or seen them in the flesh, but they appear to be quite similar to these, and they're used by a lot of track riders, so imagine they must fulfill a purpose. And they have the Frog, some flat pedals as well, but I think if you're a serious rider, you are basically choosing between one of the 3 Zero models. So I would say standard road bike, the standard Zero would do. For gravel riding, mixed surface, if you want the same type of pedal like you have on a road bike, then the Pavé is a great option. Or simply if you ride in bad conditions, this all metal interface is going to last longer. And finally, for the time trial bike or an Aero road bike, perhaps if you're a breakaway specialist or something like that, then this Zero Aero is your choice. Okay, so I think that's all for today about pedals. If you want to know more about my bike setups, then don't forget to tune into the channel and subscribe. It's all for today. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.